Welcome to Today.
No way,
we're
we're locked!
conducting a
For 30
forensic
seconds,
analysis
I can't wait!
of
Hurry up, you
a seismic
blockhead!
shift within the Steal a Brainrot universe. Specifically, the phenomenon that's known as
my
the
loot!
Roblox
Find your
Brainrot
keepers,
Chonkers
loser!
update. We are looking at a mass morphological event where
that's
these
my cat!
entities,
Find
the
your keepers,
Brainrots,
loser!
have
Take
undergone a radical
Miss me! How about
transformation
that?
to what the source material classifies, quite literally, as chunk level 10,000.
But the question we're debating isn't just about accumulating mass. It's really about the fundamental nature of digital existence and character identity itself.
Exactly. Does this expansion represent a paradise of plenty? A successful adaptation to a post-scarcity world where violence gets sublimated into consumption? Or is it a curse of excess? A tragic de-evolution where character agency is just suffocated by biological runaway? I'm the advocate, and I posit that this is an evolution toward a pacified, resource-rich society where these characters are finally allowed to be content.
And I am the dissenter. I look at the very same data set and I see a catastrophe unfolding in real time. While you argue for some utopia of consumption, I see a prison of flesh. The chunker phenomenon is a tragedy where form is completely divorced from function. We are witnessing a world where mobility is sacrificed for caloric intake and where the essential self of these characters is being erased by their own mass. This isn't evolution, advocate. It is, frankly, a hospice care scenario for digital entities who have lost the will to do anything but feed.
A strong opening, but let's move immediately to the evidence we find in the material. My primary argument for this being a positive societal shift rests on the transition from criminality to contentment. First, we have to look at the infrastructure. The source material describes a sudden, almost explosive proliferation of culinary institutions: burger joints, sushi bars, ice cream parlors, pizza places. This signals a society that has moved beyond the basic struggle for survival. But the key insight here is, well, it's best exemplified by the character Boboto Gangster.
And you're going to argue that his lethargy is a virtue.
I am arguing that his behavioral modification is a triumph of social engineering. Previously, Bob Vanto was defined by the gangster in his title. He was an agent of chaos, a potential vector for violence. In this new update, the source explicitly states he has quit his gangster life to simply eat burgers all day. Now, you might see laziness, but sociologically, this is rehabilitation. We have a character who has traded the tools of violence for the tools of consumption. A society where the gangsters are too busy eating to commit crimes is, by definition, a safer society. He has been neutralized by satisfaction.
That is a dangerously generous reading of the data. You call it rehabilitation, I call it sedation. You are confusing peace with incapacitation. If a character is rendered harmless only because they are physically unable to perform their previous role due to gluttony, that isn't moral progress. It's a loss of agency. And just look at the physical toll. You mentioned Hotspot. Previously, the source notes he was bones and skinny. Now he has fat Hotspot. Fueled by what? YouTube shorts of food and physical sustenance? You celebrate this bulk as presence, but you're ignoring the cost to the organism.
The cost. The cost is that he is visible now. Gangster Fat Terra, the chubby foot, has maximized his surface area. In the digital economy of attention, size is validity. Hotspot has moved from a state of frailty, being just bones, to a state of, substantial form. He is taking up space. He is asserting his right to exist in 3 dimensions rather than 2.
He is taking up space, sure, but at what cost to his identity? Consider Ballerina Lolo. This, for me, is the linchpin of my argument for de-evolution. This character was originally a protein shake, a symbol of discipline, of kinetic energy, of health. The update has transmuted him into a soda. This is alchemical decay. He has gone from a fuel source for activity to a liquid focused purely on sugar delivery. It represents a complete collapse of internal values. And it's not just abstract values, it's physical capability. We have to talk about Bulbito Fetito.
The character with the tractor, right?
Exactly. Bulbito Fetito represents the total failure of the biological form. The source notes he can no longer walk. He is forced to rely on a tractor to move between restaurants. When an organism loses its primary mode of locomotion, bipedal movement, and becomes dependent on heavy industrial machinery just to bridge the gap between meals, we are not looking at a paradise. We are looking at a dependency crisis. The environment is crushing them. Look at Bambini Cristini, the chocolate croissant. The roof literally collapsed on him. The infrastructure cannot support their excess. The world is caving in on them.
See, I think you're framing tool usage as a weakness. The tractor isn't a crutch, it's an adaptation. Humans use cars because we can't run 60 miles per hour. Obito uses a tractor because his form has evolved beyond walking. But I want to challenge your core thesis that they have lost their competence. I believe we are seeing a functional shift that is actually morally superior.
Morally superior? How can you possibly justify that when they can't even walk?
Look at Bombardo Crocodile. In the previous iteration of this universe, a Bombardo implies a creature that drops bombs, weapons of destruction, shrapnel, fire. In this update, the source material is explicit. He now drops burgers instead of bombs. You simply cannot argue that this is an improvement. He is transformed from a warmonger into, he's a logistics hub for sustenance. He is literally raining nutrition from the sky. The function hasn't been lost. It has been sublimated into something nurturing. He is an aid worker in the body of a crocodile.
You're focusing on the output, but I'm looking at the organism. You say he drops burgers, but is he free? Let's talk about Fatino, the 9-cat analog. This is where your evolution theory really hits a brick wall. The source material is heartbreakingly clear. He can't fly anymore. And why? Because of the mass. The Pop-Tart body, which was once aerodynamic enough for space travel and trailing rainbows, is now just an anchor. You call Bombardo a provider, but I look at Fatino and I see a bird that has clipped its own wings. If a character's defining trait is flight, the ultimate expression of freedom, and they trade that for a thick physique, they have not evolved. They have been grounded by their own appetites.
But I think you are prioritizing traditional forms of movement, flight, running, over successful environmental integration. You're judging a fish by its ability to climb a tree here. Let's pivot to Tentado Tecnico, the octopus found deep in the pool. The source asks, what is he eating? And concludes, it makes sense because he is an octopus eating seafood. This is perfect biological alignment. He is in the pool, consuming the resources of the pool. He hasn't lost his function. He has maximized his consumption efficiency within his specific niche.
That is a terrifying efficiency. You bring up biology, but have you considered the horror of Burger Fanto Elephanto? You talk about alignment, but this character represents a grotesque blurring of the line between subject and object. The source describes an elephant that is merged with the hamburger it dropped under the table. This isn't an animal eating food advocate. This is the food consuming the animal. It's a hybrid monstrosity. The distinction between the eater and the eaten is completely vanishing.
Using horror, I see synthesis. And this leads us perfectly into the ontology of the food itself. You see a hybrid monstrosity, but I see a creative, almost artistic merging of industrial and organic matter. Look at Orcalero's chunk. His shoes are made of pizza. Or Burbaloni, who is described as being made of candy inside a tire. This is a surrealist masterpiece. The characters are literally wearing their desires. It's a form of radical honesty. In our world, we hide our vices. In the Chonker universe, Orcalero walks a mile in pizza shoes because that is his truth.
You are what you eat is a metaphor, not a survival strategy. This synthesis you celebrate is actually cannibalistic. Take tea-greedy watermelon. The hosts in the source material ask a chilling question. Is he made of watermelon or eating it? If he is made of watermelon and he is gorging on watermelon, he is trapped in a cycle of auto-cannibalism. This is a crisis of self. It suggests these creatures have no internal boundaries anymore. They are consuming their own likeness.
That is a philosophical conundrum, certainly. But consider the resilience required to navigate this world. You mentioned the environment is hostile, and you're right, but not in the way you think. Look at the Soda World Challenge. The source describes a scenario where characters must find the correct soda. If they guess wrong, like with the sparkling lemonade, it hurts them.
Exactly. The environment is treacherous. A world where a beverage can inflict physical damage is not a paradise. It is a minefield masquerading as a buffet.
Or it is a rite of passage. It is a trial. Finding the correct soda is a test of discernment. And consider Cappuccino Asino, the hot dog eating cappuccino. He persists despite the absurdity of his condition. Even in a world where the lemonade burns, they continue to feast. That suggests a resilience, a verve for life. They are taking risks for the sake of flavor. That is a distinctly post-human quality, the pursuit of sensation over safety.
I disagree with verve. I think it's compulsion, and this compulsion creates a disturbing hierarchy. You seem to think this society is egalitarian because everyone is eating, but I see degradation.
On the contrary, this society has a clear elite structure, a mythic status that is fascinatingly inclusive. We have to discuss Truly a Nice Fatter. The source reveals this character is an air conditioner that likes pepperoni pizza.
Which makes absolutely no thermodynamic sense. An air conditioner cooling a hot pizza. It's a complete contradiction.
It makes poetic sense. This suggests a techno-organic evolution where even the appliances are participating in the feast. This isn't degradation, it's the elevation of the inanimate into the circle of life. The machine has learned to desire. That is profound. It suggests that the Brainrot has sparked consciousness in the machinery itself.
Elevation? I want you to look at Toiletino Fat Cheeto. Here is a character defined explicitly by eating while on the toilet. This represents the absolute neater of dignity. The separation between intake and output, the fundamental rhythm of biology, has collapsed into a single shameful location. If this is your paradise where a character consumes Cheetos on a commode, then your definition of paradise needs some serious revision.
That's a specific edge case, isn't it?